and welcome into another episode of Morgan's Pop Talks, breaking down the latest in reality TV and pop culture. 12 pages full of the biggest headlines of the week for you. I'm ready. Don't get me wrong, but I'm also just a little bit thrown off because right before I went to record this podcast, I walked downstairs to find my husband taking his lunch break, watching a YouTube video about a Cybertruck in a cut-off t-shirt, sleeveless shirt. So I didn't really have time to take that visual in before coming back upstairs, but now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, like, I'm a little concerned. You know, the two things together, it's like my husband loves YouTube. He's always watching these YouTube videos that I personally find just as annoying as like the baby shark videos, like kid YouTube and techie dude, but also like funny millennial dude YouTube. Same vibe to me. I just cannot get with it. So the fact that I saw him watching like Cybertruck YouTube in a cutoff t-shirt, it's put me in a space. But anyways, let's regroup, let's center, let's focus. And let's get into the pop three. I want to start with some Summer House updates. There's like 3 updates in one with this one because a lot happened with our dearly beloved Summer House crew, which I miss them. I needed a break. I truly did, but I missed them. We had it good, didn't we? When Kyle was smizing in a People magazine exclusive, like those were the days. But anyways, from this weekend, did you see the Carl and Lindsay deadline pictures? I mean, who did not see these pictures? So they had this photo shoot for the Deadline Contenders series. And Jeez-o Pete's, as Danny Bucco would say, Jeez-o Pete's, these two looking better than ever. So I read the article that went with this photo shoot because the pictures came out and everybody on the internet was like, oh my gosh, look at Carl and Lindsay. They're lovingly looking into each other's eyes. They're smiling. She's sitting on his lap. Like, it's a whole thing. I read the interview and it is talking a lot about the Wes and Amanda scandal. However, we did get a good little snippet of info about Lindsay and Carl's friendship from this interview, which is interesting because you've heard it from both sides, you know, whether it was Carl on my pod or Lindsay in the press, you know, you've heard it from both of them, the status of their friendship, but this was together. So Carl said, I was just excited and glad that Lindsay and I could continue to kind of grow the friendship, get some closure from the past, kind of try to move on with respect and try to build a new chapter of friendship. You saw pieces of that in the conversation her and I had at the Labor Day party. He said watching it back was really meaningful and touching. She's been just cool with me. And Lindsay said, we're cooler than ever. Which is like such a classic Lindsay statement, isn't it? I'd say cooler than ever because did you see the Instagram photo of them chilling in the hotel bedroom together? I think their flight maybe got canceled or something, but Lindsay shared it to her Instagram story and said, kind of chic to get a hotel room for 3 hours and go back to LAX for a 6 a.m. flight. And then you open any social media app, Threads, TikTok, Instagram, and the comments are, is it bad that I want them to get back together? Am I toxic? Should they get back together? Look, I want Lindsay and Carl to be happy and healthy, however that looks in their life, whatever feels good for them, whatever sets them up for success in the future. I do just have to say, I did get back together with my ex after 7 years and we got married. So maybe I'm not the right person to ask my opinion on. The thing of it is for me, is I've never actually like been around a serious ex of mine. Whenever we broke up, we like legit went our different ways. Honestly, never spoke to each other again, except for my husband, David. And as soon as we saw each other again, it was like nothing ever happened. Now, our situation was wildly different because we were super young. I was going to college. He was going back home to South Africa. So at 18 years old, I'm living in West Virginia. I'm not going to be dating a guy that lives in South Africa. First of all, I have no money to go see him and vice versa. So it just was never going to work. Their situation is a little bit different, but does it go away? Like, do feelings that you had when you were in love with someone, does it go away? I don't know. I don't want to make a blanket statement. So I'm not going to. Let's move on to some other news. Remi Bader and KJ Dillard were spotted out together, a little Dumois spotted, a freshly single KJ Dillard and influencer Remi Bader. What seemed like after a night out. It was kind of like a blurry photo. You know how those Dumois photos are. But when I saw this, like, I didn't really have much of a reaction to it. I feel like the photo wasn't screaming they're together, you know, like they were standing a certain amount apart. They weren't like all over each other. But of course, you know, the DM that coincided with the picture was like they were together all night, whatever. I don't really have a reaction to it other than I was just like, okay, you know, that's fine. I just don't know like how I would feel about Remi being on Summer House. I don't know if I'm like down for that. Although she has been to some of the parties, like she's in the background of a bunch of these parties, but I'm kind of good on that. Okay, now we have a second potential Summer House romance, Jesse Solomon and Jane Motion. You might be saying, who's Jane Motion? She's a rumored cast member for season 11. But I remember when season 11 first started filming, her name was popping up, but it wasn't in connection to Jesse Solomon at the time. It was in connection to Carl Radke. I remember, you know, people in the comments saying, oh, is Carl dating Jane or whatever? Well, now word on the street is that it's actually Jesse dating Jane. And I don't know why Dave Portnoy seems to have all the scoop on the Summer House cast. Remember, it was like he was the one that was talking about the Super Bowl and whatever. Now here he is talking about Jesse Solomon and Jane Motion. But Dave Portnoy is like, I asked Jane, I know her. My ex was best friends with her. So I said, hey, are you on Summer House? And what's the deal? She said, I can't confirm. I would love to see Jesse Solomon find love, that wildfire love for season 11. Come on, Jess, let's go. Headline number 2, Jordyn Woods and Karl Anthony Towns got married over the weekend and the stars were out. First of all, let me just say, she looked incredible. She looked like a Disney princess, just a sight to behold. I loved it. But a lot of famous attenders, Kylie and Timothy, Haley and Justin, and the one that is making the most headlines is Nicolandria. Boy, oh boy, Nick and Alandria were there just a few weeks after announcing their split. Leah Kateb was also there. I saw her laughing it up with, I think Kylie Jenner, which is kind of crazy. But the internet is buzzing about Nicolandria, seen in a few photos. There was one, like an aerial view where they're seen sitting together at the ceremony. And then there was one photo, I saw it posted on Complex, where it looked like a happy hour, cocktail hour, and they're chatting with each other. Again, the world is asking, what's the 411? What's the status? Are they back together? I don't know the answer. But I mean, if we're just looking at things from a timeline standpoint, you know, they did confirm, or Nick confirmed the split on July 26th, and now this is August 14th weekend. So not a whole lot of time. You know, there are RSVP deadlines. We could have a situation where they RSVP to go to this wedding together, broke up. In the meantime, they're still on friendly terms, so they were able to go and hang out or whatever. I don't know. Or they are together. I don't know. I mean, when they did break up, the narrative that was put out there was that they still cared about each other and still were friendly or whatever. Nick was asked about it shortly after the wedding. Entertainment Tonight posted clips of someone asking Nick, reporter asking Nick, you know, we just saw you and Alandria at this wedding together. What's the status on your relationship? Nick said, I love you guys. I'm going to keep it private for now. And you can't see if you're listening to the pod, but I just rolled my eyes so far back into my head that my eyelid got like stuck up there for a little bit. This is the stuff that drives me nuts with Nick. Like, It's just like, what's your angle, dude? You know what I mean? Like, why does everything have to be so secretive? Like, you can, if you are in a relationship, you can still be in a relationship and live a pretty private life. It's just annoying to me. Like, if you're gonna go on a reality dating show and be with someone for a year and then like act, I don't know. I get it. Everyone deserves their privacy, but also at the same time, it's like you two fell in love on a reality dating show. Like people are gonna ask, and for you to always be like, you can't know. It's just like, ugh, it just drives me crazy. Anyways, let's move on to headline number 3. Alex Cooper had a busy week, some good, some bad, and everything in between. So let's start with the good. Unwell just received its first outside investment, valuing the company at a reported $500 million before the investment. It comes from WTSL, the firm founded by former WME executive Patrick Whitesell and Jason Lublin. WME is an agency. It's pretty major, evolution for Unwell because Alex and her husband, Matt, they're starting to expand their territory. It used to just be the podcast network, but now Alex Cooper and her husband, Matt Kaplan, want to start getting into live events, TV, film, consumer products, and acquisitions, which isn't surprising. You think about Unwell Beverages, although not for long. But also these 2 TV shows that Alex Cooper has had her name attached to this past year, Love Overboard and Let's Marry Harry, which with both, I'm not convinced yet. Not convinced about the TV show aspect of it. But literally just one day after this investment news, reports came out that Unwell Beverages is shutting down. So, not Unwell Media, the specific beverage company that Alex launched with Nestle last year. The beverage line is reportedly winding down after its Halloween release, with Target expected to sell through the remaining inventory. So I think this is just always something interesting to look at. I think anytime you get to someone of Alex Cooper's level of success, you do want to start to branch out, rightfully so, not saying that she shouldn't, but sometimes it's harder than it seems. You almost feel like people with this kind of platform, anything they touch would turn to gold, and that's not always true. And then just a few days later, Alex Cooper left UTA after more than 6 years with the agency. UTA represented Alex throughout basically her entire rise from Call Her Daddy personality to the head of this massive media company. No real word on why she decided to leave or where she will be going. And then we cap it off with this drama that's reignited between Alex Cooper and Dave Portnoy. Dave Portnoy, the second time we're mentioning Dave Portnoy in today's MPT. I gotta say, I think that might be a record, but he's bringing their old Barstool drama back into the conversation because Dave Portnoy has a memoir. And he alleges that during Alex and Sophia's infamous 2020 contract battle with Barstool, the girls discussed falsely accusing the company of sexual harassment as leverage to get out of their contracts. So that's Dave Portnoy's allegation. In response to that, CNBC journalist Andrew Sorkin questioned Alex Cooper in an interview, and this was her response. "I've been pregnant, Andrew. I'm busy building a child. I think whenever I see Dave online, we all enjoy his banter. He's a very entertaining person, and I have a very great and complicated relationship with Dave. He gave me my start in the industry, and I will never not be grateful to him. Dave's got his version, I've got my version, and we're all good." Andrew Sorkin said, "Do you want to tell us your version?" She said, "No. I'm in my mother era. I'm no drama right now, Andrew. We're here to talk business." Sounds like she didn't want to answer the question. Sounds like it. Okay, time to move on to this week's deep dive. And unfortunately, it is a bit of a sad one because without a doubt, the biggest story in Hollywood and pop culture this week is the untimely death of Hayden Panettiere. And there is a lot to get into here. Just thinking back to Monday when this news broke, the world was shocked, right? Here's Hayden Panettiere, a beautiful Hollywood actress, 36 years old, who has certainly had her struggles, but has been more vulnerable and open lately about talking about the next steps in her path and in her career and seemingly getting to a better place. So to learn that she has passed away just days before her 37th birthday was a really big shock to a lot of us. But, I think it's important to remember before we get into all the details of what happened and what's going on now, first of all, this is being recorded on Wednesday, August 19th at 1:29 p.m. EST. So I know this story has been moving really fast. There might be new information that comes out between now and when you listen to this episode. But before we get into the details of what happened this past weekend, I think it's important to remember that Hayden Panettiere has been in the public eye her entire life. She was a child actress, child star. She became one of the most recognizable young actresses in the early 2000s. She was in Remember the Titans as a child. She went on to star as Claire Bennett in Heroes, played Kirby in the Scream franchise, and then Juliet Barnes on Nashville. The list goes on and on and on. If you're a millennial, you definitely know of a few things that Hayden Panettiere was in. So like I said, you look at that and you think, wow, beautiful young woman, a successful career in Hollywood. She must be set. But as we know, and as we have been reminded a lot of lately, not all that glitters is gold. So earlier this year, Hayden Panettiere released her memoir, This Is Me, A Reckoning, where she was incredibly candid about her experiences as a child actor. Not only that, addiction, postpartum depression, relationships, and trauma. She described starting to drink heavily in her teens and eventually struggled with alcohol and opioids. She also talked about how difficult Nashville became for her, the show Nashville, because Juliet Barnes' storylines began to mirror things that Hayden was actually experiencing in her own life, including postpartum depression and addiction. She said, playing out my own struggles on television as a different character became increasingly difficult for her to handle. She was a mother. Hayden welcomed her daughter Kaya with her former fiance, Vladimir Kishko, in 2014. After giving birth, Hayden became one of the more prominent celebrities at the time to openly discuss postpartum depression. And this is another kind of side story that's really starting to pick up steam right now, because at that time she was in a long-term partnership with makeup company Neutrogena. Hayden was a Neutrogena spokesperson for nearly a decade, beginning when she was a teenager. And in 2015, after giving birth to her daughter, Hayden publicly revealed she was struggling with postpartum depression. And Hayden later claimed that after that admission, I saw it, I don't know if this is where she first said it, but I saw a clip from when she was on live with Kelly and Mark, and she was talking about it there. Hayden later claimed that after that admission, Neutrogena tried to terminate her contract, citing a morality clause. And her representative reportedly fought the decision, allowing Hayden to finish out the year. But after that, Neutrogena still decided not to renew her contract. Hayden says what hurt most was that after working with the company for so many years, almost a decade, no one reached out to ask if she was okay. So that story has resurfaced following her death, with fans calling for a boycott of Neutrogena. An important distinction is that's Hayden's account of what happened. Neutrogena has not confirmed that it was her postpartum depression disclosure that is what ended the relationship. But, she was on this long road with her struggles and her addiction. And at one point it got to the point where she decided that it was best for her daughter to live with her ex-fiance, Vladimir, while Hayden focused on getting herself healthy. And she described that decision as absolutely devastating, but said she knew she wasn't in the place where she could be the mother that she wanted to be. And in more recent years, she had spoken about rebuilding that relationship and remaining part of her daughter's life. Now, a name you're probably seeing a lot right now is Brian Hickerson, and Hayden's relationship relationship with Brian Hickerson was another big part of her story. On again, off again, toxic relationship. She started dating Brian after her relationship with Vladimir had ended, but it became extremely tumultuous. Brian was arrested multiple times in connection with alleged domestic violence involving Hayden and ultimately pleaded no contest to felony domestic violence charges. Hayden eventually spoke publicly about the abuse that she endured, hoping that sharing her experience could help other people in similar situations. And despite everything that happened between them, Brian recently came back into Hayden's life. That's kind of what's being, I would say, breadcrumbed in the media right now is the extent of their current relationship. But we do know now that Brian was there the day that Hayden died. So what happened on that day? That this would have been Sunday, August 16th. According to the police report that was released this week, Brian Hickerson and his brother Zach were both at the apartment when authorities responded. Emergency responders were called around 1:51 p.m. for an unresponsive woman in cardiac arrest. Paramedics performed CPR, did a few other things, but Hayden was declared dead at 2:31 p.m. And the police report says Brian showed officers a bag containing Hayden's different medications. And dispatch audio from the emergency response also referenced a possible overdose, and there have been reports that Narcan was administered or found at the scene, but authorities have not determined that Hayden died from an overdose. That is ongoing. The autopsy reportedly found no signs of trauma. Police do not suspect foul play. The investigator said it was unknown whether Hayden had consumed drugs or alcohol before her death. Her official cause and manner of death are still pending toxicology results, which could take several weeks. Now, right before I jumped on here, I did see this update from TMZ. So according to TMZ, police are now conducting a death investigation to determine whether any criminal conduct could have played a role in Hayden's death. TMZ reports that investigators are not simply assuming this was an accidental overdose of prescribed medication and are looking into whether there could be more to the circumstances surrounding her death. On Wednesday morning, Greenville police reportedly went to the family home of Hayden's boyfriend, Brian Hickerson, apparently seeking information about circumstances that could be connected to her death. A law enforcement source told TMZ the investigation was triggered in part because Hayden's death was considered quote, unexpected, given that she was only 36 years old. Police are reportedly conducting their investigation alongside the coroner's investigation into Hayden's official cause and manner of death. So a lot going on there. I kind of feel like as to be expected within the first week of this, major tragedy. But I think there's another piece of Hayden's recent life that I think is important to talk about. Based on everything else she's been through, and that was the passing of her younger brother. So in 2023, Hayden unexpectedly lost her younger brother, Jordyn Panettiere, and he was just 28 years old. His family later said he died from an enlarged heart, coupled with complications involving his aortic valve. Hayden described her younger brother, Jansen, as her other half and was extremely open about how profoundly his death affected her. She said the grief changed her, not only physically, but also emotionally, and said, there were times that she struggled to even leave the house after losing him. So she had been through a lot. And like I said, now more recently starting to talk about it in her memoir and on podcasts. And that kind of leads me into this, like, where was Hayden Panettiere at now in her life? And I think that's what makes another layer of this story so difficult to stomach, is that Hayden had recently been doing something that she hadn't been able to do in many years, and that was tell her own story. Her memoir came out a few months ago. She was openly talking about some of the darkest periods in her life, but she also was talking about moving forward. There's this clip that has since resurfaced again and gone viral from her interview with Jay Shetty, where she's crying and she's saying, finally feels like I can start shaking off this darkness that has surrounded me. But Gayle King also is sharing her experience because Gayle King interviewed Hayden not too long ago. Gayle was reflecting on an interview on CBS Mornings and said that hearing about Hayden's death was very painful. She remembered asking Hayden how she was doing during their May interview, so really not that long ago. And Hayden told Gayle that she was in a good place and healthier than she had ever been in a long time, but Gayle said that from her perspective, Hayden was still clearly struggling. Gayle said what especially stuck with her was their conversation about Hayden giving full custody of her daughter to Vladimir in 2018 while she was struggling with her addiction. Gayle remembered thinking how painful that decision must have been for Hayden as a mother. She also emphasized that Hayden had been very open about what she had been through rather than trying to hide it. And looking back at the interview, Gayle essentially said that although Hayden said she was doing better, you could still see that she was working through a lot. She had returned to acting. She was doing one of the Scream movies and was talking about her daughter and her future. And she actually did this animal rights advocacy campaign with PETA, which PETA actually released today, I think. PETA released this campaign that they had been working on with Hayden against keeping marine mammals in captivity. That was something that she had advocated about for years. Hayden Panettiere's estranged mother, Leslie Vogel, has now spoken out for the first time since her passing. Now, their relationship had been complicated for many years. Leslie managed Hayden's career when Hayden was a child actor, and Hayden wrote very openly in her memoir about eventually feeling like the relationship became less mother-daughter and was more of a business transaction between the two of them. And when the memoir came out, Leslie kind of countered some of the things that Hayden wrote about her in the memoir. So unfortunately, they weren't in the greatest place when this happened, but Leslie told NBC News that she had not spoken with Hayden since October. But speaking out about Hayden's passing, she described her daughter as amazingly talented, but also talked about how difficult it can be for children who grow up in the entertainment industry. She said it's a challenging industry and that young people can sometimes sadly find the wrong path. But Leslie also specifically brought up Hayden's ex, Brian Hickerson. She said Hayden's family had been concerned about Brian for years and had been trying to get him out of Hayden's life. She said this person in her life that we had been trying to get rid of for quite some time was with her at her death. Leslie also accused Brian of enabling Hayden in the past and said that was why both she and Hayden's father had been concerned about him for so long. But despite everything and the complicated relationship and the layers of context that is going on here, Leslie ended on a much more emotional note. She lost one child, her son, in 2023, and now she's lost her other child. And she says she believes that Hayden is with her brother, Jansen, and they're finally at peace. Hayden's ex, Vladimir, also has spoken out. Former fiance, father of her daughter, he said Hayden left the world far too soon and asked people to remember her not only for the difficult chapters of her life, but for her talent and for what she accomplished. Most importantly, he said he wants their daughter to grow up knowing who her mother was and what she achieved. It's heavy, isn't it? It's really heavy. And something Hayden's mom, Leslie, said in her statement really has stuck with me. And it's something that we all know, but I think, you're always just reminded that, being a child actor can sometimes lead you down the wrong path. And you have a million people that come to mind when you say that. And I think that's the problem, right? Like, you think about, as a millennial, some of these people that you grew up watching, whether it was on this network or that network or whatever, it seems like as time continues to go on, every child actor has a story that we're shocked to hear. And I think Hayden dealt with a lot of, like she said in that Jay Shetty interview, there was a lot of darkness in her life, a lot of traumatic events. But I think deep down, she might not have been perfect, and none of us are, but I do genuinely feel like she wanted to get better. And I feel like, a lot of us feel like, just based on the things that she was saying and the things that she was doing, that we were headed down that road. So for it to be cut short is very, very sad. Now, I apologize in advance for the hard pivot, but there's really no other way to pivot into a next pop culture story. So we're going to do that, and we're going to do final thoughts with Earle Meets World. So we knew that Alex Earle had a family reality show coming out soon. We got the official trailer and the release date this week. September 4th, 8 episodes, 45 minutes each. They will all drop at one time on Netflix. I hate the one-time drop. Why do you guys do this? Every streaming platform these days are dropping entire seasons at one time. I can't keep up. I need schedule. I need a routine. I need everybody watching these Netflix shows to be on the same routine as me so that we can chat about it, so that we can talk it through. When I'm having to watch all 8 episodes at one time, I don't think you guys understand what you're doing. You're doing an incredible disservice to your talent because you're rushing through what could be weeks worth of content. I mean, let's look at House of Stassi. This show has been talked about for 3 years. It starts airing, all the episodes drop at once. Here we are 2 weeks later, crickets about House of Stassi. Why are you guys doing this to us? I wasn't expecting to go on that big of a tangent, but I fear it's imperative. Anyways, there's lots to discuss when it comes to the contents of the trailer for Earle Meets World. There's a lot of Alex Cooper references, which we will get to in a second, but Alex says there's a side of my life that people don't get to see. Her sisters are in it, her parents are in it. I am confused. Somebody says I'm side by side with someone who's had an affair with my husband. I don't know if that was Alex's mom. Alex's mom is the blonde one. There's a girl that's got short brown hair, and I'm not entirely sure who that lady is, but not only that, it seems like the cameras really did capture a lot that went on within the family during that time. During Dancing with the Stars, Alex found out that her mom had cancer. Braxton and Alex broke up. Obviously, the Alex Cooper of it all. So it kind of seems like they were ready and willing to be true to the form, be true to the art. If you're going to have a reality show, really show everything that's happening without manufactured stuff. I will say that's what this trailer, and comparing it to a House of Stassi trailer, felt a lot more genuine in my opinion, and not as concocted. But, I haven't seen the show yet, so I can't say that definitively, but shots fired for Alex Cooper in the Earle Meets World trailer. We all knew this was coming, right? We expected that Alex Earle's rebuttal to Alex Cooper's viral internet moment where she's calling out Alex Earle saying, why are you liking all this shady stuff about me? If you don't like me, tell everybody why, or, be quiet about it. Well, Alex Earle is addressing it. She says, in what seems to be a confessional moment, she's trying to paint it as I'm just this crazy lunatic who's hating her for no reason. Close up, there's a reason. Okay, so are we going to find out what the reason is? The very first thing we hear from Alex on the trailer is the whole internet is saying, tell us what happened, tell us what happened. And she doesn't say that it's about Alex Cooper, but it's about Alex Cooper. So will we finally know? I don't know. We all knew Alex Earle was holding out for this moment because that's showbiz, baby. Alex was playing the long game with that one. I do feel like we are on the hunt for the next Kardashians. These family reality shows seem to be picking up a little bit more lately, whether it's House of Stassi or Love Thy Nader or now Earle Meets World. I kind of feel like there is room for a reigning reality TV family. And it's who's it going to be? You know what I mean? Whether it's Netflix or Hulu, it seems kind of like a rat race of trying to figure out who the next big reality TV family is going to be. I'm going to save my opinion for whenever I see Earle meets Whirl. But like I said before, I do feel like just based off the trailer, it does seem like a genuine show, which for me, that's what it boils down to. Whenever these shows start to get over the top and manufactured, like, I like drama, I guess, but I don't like drama that much to where I don't believe that you're being authentic. You know, that's the difference. That's the difference. So I feel like there's always family drama. And when you're Alex Earle, there's also a lot of other drama involved. So we'll see. Like I said, September 4th, all 8 episodes. Yay. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out for this week's episode of MPT. If you want the episode a day early, ad-free, plus a bonus episode every single week where you pick the episodes that we recap, make sure you're joining Lilas Plus. The link is in the show notes below. If you have not left a review, love 5-star people, love you like it says, please do so. I'll see you next week. And as always, did you say it? You say it. I'm waiting. Okay, fine. Love you like it says.